So I'll call our meeting to order and note that we still have 100% attendance as we did at the planning meeting because it's the same group. And we'll dispense with the pledge till a little bit later, if that's all right. And I will, let's see, since I don't have my agenda, I'll go by memory. First item is approval of minutes of last month. Is that right?
I think it's the consent calendar, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
consent
that's for
calendar.
the whole meeting, but for us, don't we have minutes to approve?
I don't think so, but that's okay. If you
Not
want
on the
to.
agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, then good. Then let's go with the gifts, which are items 3 through the last one.
Right.
12.
Who would
12.
like to?
12.
Jim, did you say you'd move those?
Yeah, sure. I'll move those up. Yep.
I'll
right.
second those.
Second, good. Okay. There's some very generous gifts there. Again, this is wonderful. The 2 benches at a couple $1,000s each is very generous. You know, the few $600 donations, $750 from the Dress Down at Doolittle, which is great.
Yep.
This is wonderful. Our community is so generous in these tough times. This is great. So, all right. Any that we should have highlighted for any reason? Sean, everything is all right? Nothing to
No,
highlight?
I mean, as you said, they're all extremely generous. Nothing pops out as being
Okay.
unusual in any way, though.
All right. Sensing you're all ready to vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, passes unanimous to recommend to the council. So now we are on the big item for the evening, which is a review of the claims and expenses with the trust fund for medical benefits. And I guess, I don't know, Sean, you want to do an overview first or just go right to Vin?
I'll start, but we are going to. I'm going to kick it to Vin and then back to the town at the end. But yeah, first of all, thank you for making time to discuss this. And I think as we had, as I know Vin has been doing with the Board of Education, as they've presented their budget over the last month and a half, they've been discussing the increase that we're seeing in medical claims and the resulting impact on the medical trust fund. I wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to have this conversation a little early, pre-budget, when we get into the throes of the budget towards the latter part of March and into April. But certainly it's always a large piece of our budget, and certainly the predictability or lack thereof of these claims, as we know on an annual basis, can be a real driving factor. So I think maybe if we start with Vin, obviously the Board of Ed has kind of the larger piece of this with larger number of employees, and they're experiencing, again, as Vin will show you, you know, an unusual year. So Vin, why don't you maybe go ahead and do your presentation, and then I'll finish it up with a look at our own kind of comparable accounting.
Okay, good evening, and thank you everyone for having me. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see that? It says medical benefits update.
Looks
Sure.
good.
Yep.
Okay, good. Let me just.
Too much red, so I can see that.
Yeah, well, I'll walk you through because I know this is a report that you may not necessarily have seen in the past. So this is the report that we provide to the Board of Education monthly. And here at the top, this was the beginning balance as we entered July 1st of our medical benefits reserve, 2.817 million. This area represents the contributions that we make from our budget, 5,110,000, plus any stop loss reimbursements we've received. Those are for claims for an individual that's over 175,000. Our stop loss insurance reimburses us, and so you can see we received 75,000 from this report is from July through January. Prescription rebates 69,000, and then interest and other adjustments 185,000. So we started the year with 2.8 million. We added 5.4 million through contributions and the stop loss reimbursements and those other items. And then this section where I have my cursor, these are the monthly claims. And the important thing that I want to highlight here is that the monthly claims expected, you know, based on the actuaries and our medical benefits broker providing it, were 800,000 a month. And you could see that the first 6 months of this fiscal year, those claims, you know, averaged about $1.1 million per month. And so we were expecting claims of $800,000 a month, so it clearly exceeded that. And the more important thing I want to point out here, this budget of $724,000 per month, because we had a large reserve balance when we prepared our budget last year, the budget that we have contributing is $724,000 a month. So each month we were contributing $724,000 and we were seeing claims of 1.1 million. And so the net result is the fund balance decreased each of the first 6 months of this claim year. You could see a little bit of good news in that January, when the new HSA plan year begins and all employee deductibles are at zero, claims did come down, probably a little bit better than I would have expected, but claims for the month of January was 735,000. So the actual medical benefits fund increased by 34,000 this month. And then at the end, the math here is our medical benefits reserve has decreased by $1.8 million this year. And as of January 31st, we stand at $1,004,619. So, that's unfortunately the story that has prevailed this year. Because it's early enough, I will take you through a little bit more detail so you could see why these claims were as high as they were perhaps. This number here, because we were expecting claims of 800,000 a month, I do show this calculation. The $1.4 million represents about 1.26 months worth of claims reserve. We like to be above 2 months. It's unfortunate that we dropped, down to 1.26. We started the year at, about 3 months of reserves. Last section on this report is this shows year-to-date claims year over year, dating way back to 2012. And you can see here, we're expecting average claims to be 800,000 per month this year. They were 1,036,000. And so it's about a 20% increase over the prior year, where the claims averaged about 861,000 a month. And last year was a relatively high claim year as well. So, when we ended December and our reserve balance was below $1 million, I certainly was concerned and shared with the board that, if that rate and pace continued, we may run out of reserve before the fiscal year ends. And obviously we never want to do that. And we would have to hold back on our operating budget to make sure that, we can continue to pay claims. But because January claims did drop, and because we are in a new HSA plan year, if things hold up, we should be able to end the year, and still have a reserve balance. Now, as a result of this trend, we did in the operating budget that the board just approved for next year that, will be presented to the town manager and the council, hasn't been yet, but we are looking to increase medical benefits by about 20%. And I could show you that, but I thought maybe we want to pause now, see if there's any questions on this piece.
Okay,
Well,
pretty self-explanatory, but do you have questions, Tim?
well, not so much a question, but if you were to extrapolate, say using last year's claims of whatever it was, 800, and if you go down a little lower so I can see what the number is I'm talking about. If you used, say, that 861, 858 as an average claim for the next 5 months, where would that leave our fund?
So it would,
it would leave it pretty much where it is now.
no, because Tim, we're contributing 725,000 a month. And if we're seeing claims of 860 each month, we would be, dropping a little over 100.
So say you're
1,000.
dropping 100, right? So if you take 150,000 times 5,
That's most of that.
you're reducing the medical trust fund even further. You're eroding it, correct? I mean, it's
Yeah, that's
so the bottom line is this is almost catastrophic.
Well, a couple of things. If the claims for the next, typically, we see January, February, March claims lower than the first 6 months of the year, because again, people are meeting their deductible. So if, I agree with you, if we see 861,000 a month, it's a problem. But if we see claims level off at 750 to 800,000 a month, we won't go to zero. I'm trying to say that as long as we can get to the end of the fiscal year and still have a balance, assuming that the town council approves the Board of Ed's budget as requested, we'll be contributing $900,000 per month as the recommendation. And that's based on the numbers we got from USI, our medical benefits broker. We won't run out of reserve balance, but there's a risk with that, I suppose. The other thing, Tim, and the rest of the budget committee members, we will get additional stop loss reimbursements this year. We will get additional prescription rebates. So that'll help buoy the fund as we go through the rest of this year. So,
But you're putting 900,000 for next year per month, and our claims are 1.1 million this year. So you're expecting this year to be an anomaly?
yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a large anomaly because the expected claims were $800,000 a month. So,
You're not thinking that number is going to go from there forward? Because I'm looking at your history. If you slide down just a little bit, doesn't look like it's gone down too many years following a year. That they seem to have been consistently going up as opposed to down, except for maybe 15 to 16. But
yeah, you see here, like we jumped 11, then we went down 5, we jumped 3, went down 3 or 2.5. So, it's really, it's not so much about what I think, it's the numbers we get from our, medical benefits broker, and they use a 12-month rolling claim history adjusted for just general medical trends that are occurring, across the country. There is a COVID adjustment that they included of about 4.7% for next year. The thing about because we have to do our budget so early on the Board of Ed side, the 12-month rolling claims that are used are only through, in this case, December is the latest, rolling 12 that we were able to see. So by the time this, the budget gets, to the council for review, we should have, at least, we'll probably have data through February on those rolling claims. So, whether or not we need to adjust a little further when we get in front of the council to discuss our budget, and April 6th is our tentatively scheduled date, we may have better information. But I would say as of right now, the 900,000 per month that's being projected by the actuaries essentially is the number that, we'll go with. Though I will say this, that the 900,000 is not intended to start building the reserve back up. It's intended to have contributions equal expected claims. So if that holds up next year, whatever the reserve balance we end with next year is the reserve balance that we'll end with next year. There's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
So,
Finn, this piece of your budget, which I believe you guys, the Board of Ed adopted for submission,
yes.
how much did this represent in your budget increase, a percentage or a total dollar amount versus the rest of the increase?
Yeah, it's 48% of the $3.8 million requested. So it's 1.877 million of the 3.8 million. So it's the lion's share.
It's the lion's share, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Want a little more detail?
yeah,
Great.
Jim, before we leave
Sure,
this, do you
sure.
have any comments on this?
No, I was just, one thing I noticed about that trend at the bottom of the page is that you kind of mentioned it too, David, that the floor there definitely keeps going up. The floor
Mhm.
was 644, then the next floor was 679, then it was 707, then so it's definitely an upward trend. But I guess I mean, is there potential for us to go back into the 600s at any point, do you think, or would it not reverse that much?
No, I don't think we would reverse that much because, the going rate in medical inflation, has been somewhere around 9% or so.
Yeah.
We're actually trending better than that. Part of the reason that, we have to deal with this year is because, we have been, using our reserves to, buoy the budget is the best way I can explain it. Now, I'll show you that in a minute. And I have, 3 more PowerPoint slides to show you. But if you look, and even if you include the $1.87 million that we're requesting this year, over the last 5 years, the average, including that 1.87 million, is about a 3.4% increase per year on average. So it's not although this is a really high claim year, our trend has not been terrible. And, we're certainly hoping this is not the new trend. It should go back down to normalized levels, based on the rolling claims. And what they do when they do those rolling claims, I should have explained this, is they do remove the high dollar claims, which those are the anomalies. And a lot of what I'm explaining that we've seen, as a pattern, over this, the first 7 months now of this claim year, the town has experienced some of that as well. So it is, a little bit of a timing issue. It does happen to us every few years where we have a very large claim year and then, we tend to drop back a little bit.
Right. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Okay.
And then let's see some more detail.
Okay, so now what I'm going to show you is the first 6 months of last year. So July to December of 2019. These were the claims that were over $25,000. Not at the stop loss level, which is 175,000, just large claims 25,000 and over. And so what this shows you, and quickly the pie chart, you could see that the largest total dollars of those $25,000 claims were cancer, 41%, bone and joint, 16%, and then this compilation of GI, ear, nose, throat, endocrine, organ, 304,000 or 21%, and then heart, arterial, blood, 236,000 or 16%. So that's the percentage of this number here on the screen that I'm highlighting, 1.438 million. So during this period a year ago, we had 25 total claims for 1,438,000. And that was of 5.3 million in total claims. So claims above 25,000 represented 21%. So just hold on to that for a second. I'm going to show you this period that just ended in December and what that looks like. So for the same period, instead of 1,000,004, the total claims of 25,000 and over totaled almost 2.9 million. Instead of 25 claims, it was 45 claims. The large categories, although they shifted a little bit, are the same. It was cancer, bone and joint, GI, ENT, and other, and then heart, arterial, blood, about 15% or 438,000. This did increase this year, childbirth and fertility. It was a smaller number in July to December of 2019. And I will point out, this is one COVID claim that was over 32,000. So it isn't direct COVID claims that are driving this large increase. It is people that, are getting sick, with cancer, bone and joint. There are some surgeries in there, related to knee and hip, and spine. And the heart disease, is also up. So I'm going to just highlight down here. So this year to date, our total claims for this period was 6.5 million. The claims above 25,000 were 2.8 million. So 44% of this year's claims are $25,000 and over. And on this next slide, I'm showing you the years side by side, so this makes it a little bit easier. So last year's period was 25 claims. This year, same period, 45 claims. So the number of claims increased 80%. And then the dollar value of those claims went from 1.4 to 2.9 million. So yeah, it more than doubled. It's 101%. And, of that, only a small number, 30,000 is a direct COVID claim. Whether or not there are some indirect impacts because of COVID, we don't have that level of knowledge yet. But again, in this claim year, it is people for the most part, getting sick. So unavoidable, unpredictable, and that is the nature of medical claims. The last piece of information I wanted to share, and I know this is a little busy, so just bear with me 1 second. So this shows a running history back from 2015-16 all the way through the current budget period that we're in, and then the budget request for next year. This represents the medical benefits expenditure account, which is primarily claims, but it does include all medical benefit expenditures. So the premiums that we pay for our stop loss insurance, contributions to employee HSA accounts, a few $1,000s in wellness funds, the administrative fees that we pay for Cigna. Okay, so year over year, this is that 201 account, actual expenditures and then budgeted expenditures this year and next year. This is the kind of the important section that I wanted to show. So from 15 to 16, because our medical benefits fund at the time was a little over $3 million, we actually decreased the amount that was budgeted and expended to the medical benefits account by this 0.7%, 65,000. 17, 18, 18, 19, and 19, 20. Each of those years, we actually reduced this budget line, and you could see it here. We went from 8.8 million down to $8.1 million in 1920. We did increase it last budget year because claims were starting to creep up by 623,000. And then next year, this is the budget request that the board approved that the council will be hearing, 1.877 million. So these are the changes year over year. Next year, the request is 21.5%. But here's the cumulative average. So what I was saying earlier is over the past actual 6 years, if you include this budget request, assuming this 1.8 million is approved, the average annual request, amounts to about 3.4%. So it's because we've been able to use the reserves that we've been able to keep these budget increases actually below the previous year for 4 years. And then we needed to increase it, last year, and we will need to increase it obviously for next year. And you could see here all the way over to the right is the year-end medical benefits reserve balance. It did get as high as 4,050,000, and then it did start, to drop. As I said earlier, in December, that's what this 979,707 shows. December's reserve balance was a little lower than it is currently because we did see a reduction in claims and some stop loss payments in the month of January. So that's the history, and I think this puts a little bit of perspective around why this budget increase is as large as it is. It's really twofold. It's that we, have been using our reserves, I would say judiciously. We get a bad claims year, and so now we have to essentially take our operating budget, which was funding contributions at $725,000 a month. We have to ramp it up to $900,000 a month. And that's why we need to go to 21.5% increase. So that's
We ran
the,
out of savings.
what was that? We ran out of, yeah, again, this does happen. I know Tim's been on the council more longer than I've been in my position, but this is not the first time that Tim has seen this happen, right, Tim? So,
Well, I would have to say this might be more dramatic than the last time it happened. I think I think more was being pulled out of that reserve fund for a longer period of time. I
yeah,
could be mistaken on that, but this is quite a dramatic use of the reserve. Plus, we beefed it up last year.
we did.
A little bit, yeah.
We did, but we were running pretty low. I mean, we were.
Yep,
running
we were indeed.
below- We were running below 700,000 a month, so.
Right.
I mean, I know there were some questions early on about kind of, is this the new trend? Our specialist doesn't think so. The 900,000, is what's being recommended, and that's what we've budgeted here. Whether or not, lingering effects of the pandemic make claims better or worse is anybody's guess. So, we do have to rely on the guidance that we're getting from, our medical benefits broker at this point in time. So that's my piece.
Okay. Well, that's helpful, Jim.
Yeah. Vin,
Vin, excuse me.
on one thing here though, COVID expenses, because you only had the one. I'm sure we had more than one person that had COVID. Is that taking care of some
Yeah.
other?
No, that was the only claim that we had that was over 25,000.
Okay,
Interestingly, I didn't see this month's numbers, but the numbers we had through December total were $60,000. And a lot of that was for testing.
Hmm.
So, we haven't been hard hit directly by COVID is my point. I haven't seen the January numbers, and I would expect that, there's probably a lot more testing that's been going on the last couple of months as opposed to as we got through the summer. So that number may be up a bit, and obviously we hope that nobody, we hope that nobody ever gets sick on, our employees or anyone really. We certainly don't hope they get sick with COVID. And I think to a large extent, our issue is not related to COVID directly.
Right.
Which means we can't apply any of the potential federal or state funding that could be coming our way
Well,
toward this.
no, none of the funding that we received, and we did get the next round of funding, at least on the school side. There were specific categories that you can use the funding for. Medical is not one of them. It's, more along the line of academics, but you could certainly still use it to buy PPE and disinfecting and sanitizing and services like that. The allotment that we got in this round that was just approved for Cheshire was 439,000 in that range. So not an enormous amount of money,
Right.
but, and that's just on the Board of Ed side. I don't know if there's any other relief coming, for the town expenses.
all right. Guys, have enough information. Do we need to go over the town side?
We can briefly. I just want to give you kind of an overview. It's a little,
Yeah.
it's a similar story, although again, the numbers on the Board of Ed side are larger, so I always like them to go first, so we don't look quite so bad by comparison. So some of this was intentional, but I'll just quickly share, and I won't get into the detail. In fact, I don't have at my fingertips all of the kind of claim level detail that Vin was going through, but can everyone see this?
Mhm.
Yes.
PDF? Okay.
That's fine.
So a similar kind of analysis that we do. We started the year with a, actually, you know what, I'm going to jump to the other one first. It's probably a little easier to see. Sorry for, there we go. So as you'll see, we expected, our number for expected claims was $310,000 a month. As you'll see, our first 2 months of the fiscal year were very unfavorable. You can see that August in particular, variance from expected was $381,000. So the first 3 months, really, we were, running a deficit. Things seemed to course correct for the next 3 months. I was feeling better. As you'll see here, our claims compared to expected, these were all under 310. And then as we were running this analysis, really just as recently as this week, to get through January 31st, we had a larger than I thought, certainly larger than expected experience in January. Digging through those numbers a little bit, and we have more to do there. I think that's that we know there's one very large claim there that has certainly exceeded the stop loss, the extent to which we don't know for sure, but it's possible 100,000 or more of that will come back actually, which might actually put that month back in line with a more expected month. As you'll see, it was unfavorable by $105,000. Before I go on that, let me jump back to this other page here. So just kind of the same analysis that Vince started with. On our side, we started the town piece of the trust fund at $1.3 million. Based on those claims you've seen running on the other page, our current balance as of January 31st is $870,000. So you'll see that then what we have here in the way we show this is the following 5 months from February through June. These are the contributions. Of course, we have the separate budget units of the treatment plan and the pool. They all kind of put their share into the combined medical fund. So this is all revenue into the fund. So if there were no other claims at all, you would expect the fund would be realizing a final balance of $2.3 million. Of course, then we take what we do here is sort of a variety of scenarios for claims. So you take that number here, the 2.3 million, you'll see that in every scenario right here. And then what those projected claims for the next 5 months might be. If we look at our 3-year dollar average, that would be 1.2 million, and you would end with a balance of a little over $1 million. A 3-year percent, the share of the percent that month represented over the prior 3 years. You'll see that on the prior page again. It would be worse, down to $640,000. And then our worst year, which similar to what Vin was saying earlier, really last year, and again due to some very large claim, one particular very large claim that did of course trigger stop loss, but we had multiple that we experienced that exceeded the stop loss. That actually ends up being $1.6 million that we would expect in future claims for the next 5 months, resulting in $702,000. If we continue the same year, this last scenario is exactly the same we've done so far for the first 7 months, continuing the exact same average. That would sort of be the worst case scenario, which would result in $440,000. And again, translated into months, you see anywhere from about 3.6 to 1.5. So what we have as an expected is about 2.6 months at the end of the year if things continue. And so I'll probably just quickly go back to this other slide here. Again, I think it's, speaking of that end balance, there was a time that an actuary would tell you you want 4 to 6 months of reserves. Certainly, the higher the reserves, it allows you to have a little more budget flexibility, as we've seen in the past. But also the original intent of these trust funds was also to pay runout claims, right? In the event you did transition, maybe not from a self-funded plan to a fully insured plan, you would need to pay those runout claims because it would take often 3, 4, 5 months to process claims that would ultimately you'd be responsible for paying. Our consultants have gotten a little more aggressive with that over the past few years as electronic claim processing has certainly sped up that the degree to which you don't need that incurred but sort of not reported balance to be available. But nonetheless, I think we're certainly going to be in a similar spot where at a minimum, if we're looking at around 2 months of claims in our reserves, we're not going to be able to draw as we sometimes do during the budget process or get a little more aggressive with projected use of claims. At a minimum, I'll be planning on budgeting what we are expecting to need. For us, that'll be probably about a 12% increase to that budget line. So while similar, I think maybe less in scale and dollars, certainly than what the Board of Ed's experiencing, but we're hoping this is also kind of an anomaly, or perhaps in the next few months, we get a little more back on track with our expected claims. But happy to answer any questions. Just wanted to give a brief overview of where the town side sits.
So you're looking at
No, I'm good.
12% on the 3 million. So you're looking at 12% on about 3 million, so about 350,000.
I mean, that's very back of the envelope at the moment. I'd have to dig a little more,
Right.
unless Jim, you have that.
But
at your
just
fingertips.
Third order
Yep.
magnitude. We're not looking at dollars, but we're not looking at small numbers, 100,000 or something. Okay.
No, exactly. And similarly, I know it I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just gonna say if Tim or Jim, but finish, Sean.
No, just to, it's sort of harder to show in one spot here. I don't have a slide made for it, but you'll see that what we budget, this total between town treatment plant and pool is about $285,000. $289,000. That's about 20,000 a month less than the 310 that we expected. So again, smaller numbers, but you'll see that about 240,000, that's 20,000 a month for about 240,000 a year that we were, if everything held exactly true to form, we were kind of relying on the healthy fund balance that we had built up. And then kind of hoped for the best and hoped that maybe we would have a great claim year and that money would sort of stay in the fund. But in this case, if we even just sort of break even, we're kind of building in an assumption that we're going to decrease the fund by about 240,000.
All right. I apologize, turned my video off because the signal's not so great and that's helping. Tim or Jim, do you guys have any other comments or questions?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, Vin and Sean, we appreciate, and Jim, we appreciate your help with understanding this, kind of a preview of what we're going to be seeing in late March and April as we review that. It's good that we get a head start on understanding it and expectations when March 15th rolls around, or March 10th. I forgot what it is.
Yep.
All right, Vin, thank you. Have a good night. The other guys, you have to stay. All right.
You're welcome to stay.
everyone.
Vin.
Yeah, you are welcome,
Thank you.
of course.
Oh, thank you, but I think I'll go home now.
Good.
Good
All
for
right,
you.
good night, guys.
Thanks,
Bye
Vin.
now.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye,
Ben.
Marilyn.
Thanks, bye.
All right, anything else, Budget Committee? That was the last item on the agenda. So is there anything else? No, all right, then I will recess. Well, we got 20 minutes till the full council meeting. All right?
Right. Okay. See you
A
later.
little while. Yep, bye-bye.